All right, good morning. So for today, you probably need to rip out page 693 if you haven't already. You're going to need that for your homework tonight. You can just add it to the textbook packet we've been working on. And here we go. We're going to be talking about inverse trig ratios today, sine, cosine, and tangent. Our standard for mathematical practice is model with mathematics. And here we go with inverse trig functions. Please write this down in your math journal. So inverse trig functions, these are written as sine with what looks like a little -1 exponent. It's pronounced sine inverse, cosine inverse, and tangent inverse. So a normal trig function is set up in this way. We would say sine of an angle equals the opposite over hypotenuse for sine. And that's a normal trig setup. So remember that circle 0 looking thing that represents an angle. It's called theta. And then for an inverse trig, it's basically switched. So we say sine inverse of the ratio, in this case, opposite over hypotenuse, is going to equal the angle. So it's basically just a flipped version. So again, this represents the theta represents an angle. Sorry about that. Let me fix that real quick. So we have an angle. And then this part of it is the ratio, which comes from the sides of the triangle. Okay, then we have for our inverse trig, this is the reverse. This is our ratio of the sides of the triangle. And then the theta is still the angle, but it's on the other side. So this is an angle. So there's your basic setup. And if you need some more time, maybe pause the video here to catch up. All right, so going forward, we're going to test it out on a couple of examples. So take a minute and go ahead and write this down. There's your triangle. We're supposed to be finding the measure of angle x. So I'm going to just draw my little angle there. From angle x, then I'm going to, also, hey, this needs to be a right triangle. So please adjust that on your paper. It doesn't have the right angle there. We're going to draw that in. That's a right angle. Okay, so from x, we're going to see what sides of the triangle we have. So from x, I have, of course, across from the 90 is the hypotenuse. Across from x is my 9, or my opposite, and next to it is my adjacent. Once you have your sides of your triangle, then we decide which trig function we need. We have opposite and adjacent. So opposite and adjacent is tangent. So I'm going to write my regular trig function, which would be tangent of the angle x equals opposite over adjacent. So tangent of the angle equals opposite over adjacent. Then to do the inverse trig, I'm going to say tangent inverse, and I switch the angle and the ratio. So now it would be 9 over 10, and then equals x. So to solve this, I'm going to grab a calculator, which I know you can't see me doing. So grab your calculator. You can use your phone as well. If you're using an iPhone for this, you have to hit the second key, and then when you hit the second key, it should come up as tangent inverse. On an Android, I'm not 100% sure which way that theirs functions, but it is something like that. You probably have to hit a second key or find the tangent inverse. On the calculator, regular calculator, you have to use the second key. So you hit second and then the tangent button. That gives you your tangent inverse. Also on the iPhone, remember you have to enter the number part first. So you have to do the 9 over 10 and then hit tangent inverse. So just quick reminders there about how our devices work. And when you do that, you should I get 41.987. So I would say x equals 41.987. We weren't told where to round this one, but I'm going to just say probably round to the 10th place. In this case, that makes us round to 42.0. All right. Then let's go forward. If you have questions, maybe pause, go back and read it again. Ask Mr. Rondeau. Let's see. On to the next one. Example 2. This one also, please write it in your math journal. So draw yourself a triangle. This one does have the right angle marked. We're going to mark our angle at x. And then I'm going to decide what sides of the triangle I have. So always going to mark here my hypotenuse. And then my other sides here across from x, I have opposite. Come on, honey. There we go. And adjacent next to the x. So the opposite side is across from the x and adjacent next to x. This one, once again, since I have opposite and adjacent, it looks like I'm doing tangent again. So I'm going to do tangent of, let me fix that real quick. Okay, so tangent of x equals opposite over adjacent. Once I have my normal trig function, then I'm gonna switch it to tangent inverse, and then I switch my ratio and my angle. I apologize there. Let's get 46. There we go, over 93, and then that's going to equal x. All right, so again, grab those calculators. If you're using an iPhone, make sure to do the 46 over 93 first before you hit second tangent. And then if you're using a calculator, you should be able to just type it in, make sure to hit second tangent, then your stuff. And Android, I'm not 100% sure, but probably just type it like a calculator. Okay, so let me do that calculation for you really quickly. I get x equals 26.318 and so forth. And when I round that, I'm going to go to the 10th place. I get 26.3. Okay, on to the next one. Finding the measure of angle x, or again, measure x. We have, again, draw that triangle. I'll give you a second. I know I'm not giving you a lot of time. You can pause the video if we need to. All right, so on this one, I'm going to mark my angle. There's my angle x. And then I'm going to label my sides. This is hypotenuse. I have my opposite, and I have my adjacent. So for this triangle, we are given opposite and hypotenuse. So we need the trig function that does opposite and hypotenuse. That trig function would be sine, the so of SOHCAHTOA. Sine, so sine x is going to equal opposite over hypotenuse. And then when I do my inverse trig, I'm going to say sine, excuse me, let's clear that out. Sorry about that. All right, sine inverse, and then I switch my ratio and my angle. And again, grab your calculator. Make sure you're using that second key. Make sure you're using, if you're doing an iPhone, you're doing the calculation backwards. Give me just a second to get that calculation. I get x. Sorry, 1 second. I get x equals 15.642 and repeating and continuing. So I'm going to round that to x equals 15.6. All right, with that, go ahead and get started on your homework, and I should be back tomorrow to help you guys out. That's it.